Hi, this is Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events and the Eating at a Meeting livecast, weekly talk show, basically all about food and beverage. And today, I'm so excited to have somebody from halfway around the world on the show with me today, and her name is Elli Kriel, and she's in Dubai. And she owns a company called Elli's Kosher Kitchen in Dubai, and she's been doing catering for a little over a year and a half now. But I'm going to let Elli introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what she's doing, and then we're going to get into catering kosher in Dubai.
Hi, Trace.
Hey.
Hi from Dubai, and hi to everyone who's watching. It's great to be here and to talk about what I'm doing. So I've been in Dubai. I came here in 2013, August 2013. So I'm going into my 8th year here. I moved here with my family. I've got 3 children, but 2 of them moved with me to Dubai from South Africa, from Johannesburg. I came with my husband and my children, and we came to check out, a new adventure. That's what we were on. And, coming from South Africa, the opportunity to live abroad and to explore new economic opportunities was something that was very enticing to us. And as a Jewish family in particular, I thought it would be good for us to be in the Middle East. And to be in the Middle East and to live among Arabs specifically because I thought it would be a nice way for my children as Jewish kids to grow up not having any stereotypes of Muslims and Arabs. So we came here with, armed with many bags of kosher food because we didn't know what we could get here. And actually, I'm a sociologist by profession, and I stopped teaching in South Africa to come move here for my husband's work. And we landed in the UAE, and I got a teaching job pretty soon after that, and was teaching sociology and finishing off my PhD. And that's how we got here. We were focused very much on integrating. We were focused very much on building a kosher home because we are kosher ourselves, and we led a kosher life back in South Africa, and that's what our kids knew, and we were determined to keep that going. And so that's how it started.
That's awesome. And my friend David Korn sent me an article a couple of months ago about kosher meat being airlifted from the U.S. to Dubai. And through that article, I found you. And then why we're talking here. So can you tell a little bit more about that whole, why was kosher meat being shipped halfway across the world to get to you for what you're doing?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure when you heard that kosher meat was flying in from across the world, it must have been something quite unreal. I mean, there was a kosher need for meat to come in. So, we've been living in the UAE, as I said, for a long time, but we couldn't get kosher meat. People would bring it in for us, on occasion, and we actually adopted a vegetarian lifestyle as a result. And I mean, we were always very much towards the vegetarian lifestyle in the first place, but once we got here and we couldn't get kosher meat, we took that on wholeheartedly. It never really bothered us. And but when word got out that there was a kosher family living here, and kosher travelers coming in, not being able to eat any of the food around them, but needing to eat, of course. I mean, first of all, it limited travel, and business travelers would shorten their stay here because they didn't have much to eat. They would come in with crackers and cheese and whatever. So that's how my business started, was through helping others. And at a point, there was a rabbi that came in, and he saw the need also, and he brought in the meat and made it available. So that's how we get meat now. And of course, with the Abraham Accord, things are going to change further, and there'll be more channels, and meat will become more widely available.
Okay, so let's talk about the Abraham Accord, and then that article that you just showed me before we went on air about how, what that's going to do for your business, that you need to quadruple yourself. But talk a little bit, tell everybody about the Accord and what that means for Jewish individuals coming into the UAE.
Well, up until the announcement was made, the Jewish community here kept a very low profile, very private community, quite anonymous, if I can say, and shied away from media. There was absolutely no idea that any of this was going to happen, none at all. And I can tell you a great little story about where I was at the time that I found out about the Abraham Accord. So my business was running, and I have an Emirati customer who's become a very good friend of mine, and he was ordering food from me on a weekly basis, and it was a Thursday night, and he had ordered from me, and he came and he collected it, and we had a brief little chat. He got in his car, drove off. In 30 seconds he sent me a WhatsApp. And the WhatsApp was the news of the Abraham Accord, the announcements that, the UAE was going to normalize ties with Israel. And we were both shocked and stunned. And WhatsApps went flying around. I mean, everyone's phone, everyone who was living in the UAE, Emirati or Jewish, their phones just exploded. And it carried on for weeks like this. And it's just been one announcement after another. And the latest announcement, which I've got here, on the front page of one of the local newspapers, 28 weekly flights.
Wow.
UAE and Israel. And that is going to be 28 weekly flights from Tel Aviv to Dubai and Tel Aviv to Abu Dhabi. So suddenly, as a community, things are opening up and on a big, big scale. And certainly for my business, where I've been a home-based business, providing food to individuals, now it's tour groups, and it's conferences, and it's corporates, and it's it's large, it's Passover trade as well, and it's large scale. So I think everyone's trying to wrap their heads around how we're going to deal with this. And I know that Israel's in lockdown at the moment. It's giving us a little bit of breathing space to prepare, but as soon as those flights start, we're going to be running.
I bet. And actually a couple of weeks ago, it was the Department of Tourism said all hotels should provide kosher options, kosher kitchens for all of these new customers, guests that are going to be coming into the country. I mean, that not putting that mandate, but putting that wish and that want on all of them is amazing.
Look, that's major. I mean, if there's one thing that it demonstrates is that the UAE takes what they call tolerance very, very seriously, and they want to have this inclusion for their guests. It's a very hospitable place. It's very service driven. The hospitality industry has phenomenal standards. I mean, it's top class, really top class. And to have the idea that guests can come and stay in these amazing hotels but not be able to eat is, it goes against the whole ethos of the place. It's very driven around pleasing and impressing people. So when that came out again, I mean, we were all kind of floored. We didn't expect this to happen either. It's been one announcement after the other, the normalization. Then it was the kosher kitchens in Abu Dhabi. Every hotel has to have kosher menu options and a kosher kitchen, or at least a combination. Then it's been the flights, and I also saw following that the visa-free entry for Israelis and UAE, both sides.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot going on. Yeah. And of course, lots of business ties and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, and you just this week you went up to and I always don't say this right, Abu Dhabi,
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. Thank you, and did a business meeting. What was that about? What was that event?
So the business summit was really just to bring the parties together, the Israelis, the Americans, and the Emiratis, to find ways to do business together, to align projects, basically to lay the foundation and to sign, you know, the treaties or the agreements between them. And it was a large delegation, I would say about 200 people, and 60 of them needed kosher food. So I was there to make sure that the delegates had kosher food. It was under OU certification, which is one of the largest in the world, kosher certifying agencies in the world. They support me. I'm certified by them, and we produced an amazing meal. We had excellent support from the hotel. It was in the Emirates Palace. You should go onto my Instagram. You might see photos still of the Emirates Palace. It's an extraordinary place. Beautiful, beautiful passageways. Lovely scenery, gardens, beach, everything. And they had an outdoor dinner last night, or was it last night or the night before? It's the night before, and it was seamless. It was completely seamless. You had the K on tables where kosher people were going to sit, and you had two sets of waiters, and you were asked whether you needed kosher or non-kosher food, and there was a mashgiach who's a kosher supervisor that was also there. So making sure that everyone was delivered the food that they needed. It was just phenomenal, really. The event went so smoothly. I was very proud of the fact that, Elli's Kosher Kitchen was at the Emirates Palace and providing food for all these high-profile delegates. And yeah, it was amazing.
Now, are there, because I know there was one article I read a couple of weeks ago that the rabbi came in from the States, or was he lives there and he's American but lives there. Is that right?
So Rabbi Krakowski is American. He lives in Israel. When the announcement of the normalization was made, there was a delegation that flew out from Israel with a number of journalists to cover the event and for the parties to meet. And that was the first event I did for the royal family. Basically, it was for the government of Dubai, and that I did that catering was about 100 people. That was at the St. Regis in Abu Dhabi. And for that event, Rabbi Krakowski came out from Israel and he certified the event. And that's when I got my official certification also going forward. And so he returned shortly after, but he sent another rabbi who was here for a while also, and now I've got someone else also again. So people are coming in and out all the time.
Okay. And I know, I heard, well, not I heard, but we were chatting earlier that you're getting some calls from hotels and to come help them. And you're also, because, here in the States, to get a kosher meal, a lot of times in hotels don't have the space or the capacity to have that kosher kitchen. So you're bringing it into that property. They're having a kosher caterer bring it in. Are you looking forward? Do you think that's the way it's going to go? Or do you think they're going to kosherize their kitchens as well? Or do they have extra kitchens to do that?
Well, I think it's going to be a combination. Most of the hotels here, I don't think I've seen any hotel that doesn't have a spare kitchen. And in this COVID climate, actually, most of the kitchens are closed in the hotels because they're not fully functional. So, and there are many restaurants within the hotels that are also closed. So there's no shortage of kitchens to be koshered. So what I'm planning to do and what I've started doing already is a number of things. And the one is to continue to provide fresh food and do catering for visitors who want it. But in addition to that, I'm doing a number of frozen meals that hotels can keep on hand. And
Okay.
when people arrive and they say, well, we kosher, then they can pull out the menu and say, okay, this is what we can offer you, and they will have it heated in the correct way within a hotel so that it doesn't break any of the kosher rules, and then they can deliver it to the client. And that can happen as a kind of a takeaway delivery service, or it can happen as an in-room dining service. And actually today, with the Hilton Hub Tour City, Hub Tour Hotels, we launched a 24/7 in-room dining service, kosher
Wow.
in-room dining service, yes. And that's based on this principle of frozen food. But my kitchen is also in the Hilton, so it just makes it so much easier. When someone is staying at the Hilton and they want something, they can order it directly and it will go into the process. So very easy from that perspective. Yeah.
What were
And
you,
then there's the other scenario where we have large groups. Obviously, I have limited capacity in my own kitchen. It's a small kitchen, actually, even though it's based in a hotel already. But I'm getting requests for 200 people, 300 people, 500 people, sometimes 1,000 people.
uh-huh.
Um, that's not something I can do out of my kitchen at the current moment. Hopefully, I will be quite soon. But the way that we deal with that then is that we work with the hotel chefs. We go into their hotel. We ask them for a dedicated kitchen. We kosher out that kitchen, and then we station a supervisor and one or two of my chefs to lead the whole production of the food. And the hotel brings their chefs to support, and then we produce the food in the hotel. And I've done a number of those, and they've been very, very successful.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know, because then that gives options
Yeah,
for organizations bringing their events to the country. Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah.
that will be available in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So,
Okay,
earlier this week I did it in Abu Dhabi. I've done quite a few of those in Abu Dhabi. Actually, interestingly, less in Dubai, but it's doable, and each time it becomes easier and easier because we've gone through the process. So.
right. And as they get used to doing it as well, that'll become easier for them, the hotel properties as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So on your website, your background is really interesting to me, in the fact that you were born and raised in South Africa to Greek parents,
Mhm.
and you follow kosher, um, and now you live in Dubai, but your catering menu, or the food that you create, is kind of kosherati, and
Yes.
meaning merging those two cultures together. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I can. So, what I see in food is that the food that one tends to produce is very much an expression of their identity. And if you look at my menu, it's quite an eclectic menu. It's got various Jewish, Mediterranean, Greek kind of influences in it. So typically you will see, either it's an all Ashkenazi kind of Eastern European menu, or Sephardi menu. But in my case, we've got a little bit of Ashkenazi, we've got a little bit of Sephardi, we've got a little bit of Greek, we've got a little bit, of Emirati. And the thing is that, when you're living in a place, you tend to express that environment around you, and that comes through in your food. And being kosher in a new environment, especially someone who's interested in different cultures and different people, and wanting to also experience different cultures and the heritage of different people. I wasn't able to do that with a kosher lifestyle. So I started reading a lot of recipes and understanding the different foods of the region, and talking to people, and decided to start making my own form of Jewish foods. That would be eclectic because I'm not strictly Ashkenazi. My husband's Ashkenazi. I come from a Greek family, so it's very Mediterranean. more Sephardi. So there's a mix of things that, I'm very aware of different foods. And so Kosherati came about because I wanted to experience Emirati foods in a kosher way. And I started looking at the recipes, and I saw in many cases there were some similarities. Sometimes, and you would think immediately, oh, there must be similarities in Sephardi food, but actually I found quite a bit of similarities in Ashkenazi food, which is surprising because, they're so far away from each other, regionally. So it's not like you would expect an overlap in the recipes. But actually, there was an overlap, and I started playing around with the recipes and the taste and the spices. And then also from the Greek side, I noticed there were a lot of foods, especially in the names of the foods, that were very similar. And you could see they were either they had the same kind of root, but they were expressed differently in the language. So that excited me. And that's how I started developing Kosherati. I met an Emirati woman, also a lovely story. She found me on Instagram almost 2 years ago now. And when I started producing food and making it available to the public, and she wanted challah. And so she contacted me and she said, please, can I have some challah? Of course, you can have challah. I'll deliver it to you. So I arrived at her home and I had 2 loaves of challah. It was a Friday. I gave her the challah and she came out with this beautiful big basket of fresh Emirati dates. And it was amazing. And I mean, both of our eyes lit up. Her eyes lit up over the challah and mine over the dates. And there was that friendship, and we that formed instantaneously. And we exchanged recipes and ideas, and she's helped me develop the Kosherati elements. And now we're writing a cookbook together. So
fantastic.
Yeah. So Kosherati, before the normalization of the events happened, Kosherati, what it meant to us was it was a way of connecting our two cultures through food. And it was very much about, this is my identity, this is my heritage, and, I'm making it available to you so that we can understand each other better, so we can develop a friendship together, so that we can see the nice things, the good things about each other's cultures and celebrate them. And that's how it happened. And this book is hopefully going to open many more doors for people to experience Emirati culture and Jewish culture.
I love that. And when we were talking last week, culinary diplomacy is what a term that you used. And I love that because, we all sit down and we all break bread. We all have to eat. And I know there was a couple years ago, they were talking, in the States about immigrants' food. And that's the way that people show how they care, is they give food.
Exactly.
And the food of their culture, welcome you into their home. But as a sociologist, that has got to be, something fun. I mean, bringing that level of that to your catering company I think adds a whole new level to what you do.
Yeah, that for me is very important, because I was always working in a university teaching, and I loved teaching. I loved working with people, young, people, and building ideas, and so when I moved into food, which was so unexpected, I didn't think of it. I didn't want to lose that, I didn't want to. And it's not to say that you can't find it in the food industry. Of course you can. I didn't know that at the time, because I had never been in that. And so when I started thinking about what I was doing, and, the idea of Kosherati came to me, it was just, I don't know, it felt really good. It felt like there's purpose in this. There's a good reason to develop this, because It can bring two people who had very little contact with each other together. And
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's a primal thing. To eat is a primal thing. And we all need it to survive, and when you sit down and you break bread together, you are breaking barriers. You're really breaking barriers because you're giving of yourself, you're giving of your heart, you're giving of your family, you're giving of your whole background, your history. It's all coming out in your food. And your food expresses who you are at that moment, where you are in your life in terms of your environment, your social location, your income level, your what elements of your identity are the most active at that moment. So it's very important. And when you're doing that, you're exposing yourself, you're making yourself known to someone. So food is very much an expression of who you are. And that's what I like to do. And I think people, if I can say it, can taste it in my food, because when when I cook, and when I share recipes and we develop things in my kitchen and we make it available, I get such good feedback. And the feedback is, people say to me, "Oh, this reminds me of home," or "This is like my grandmother," or "This is like my mother," or "This is like," and the expression on their faces. I mean, I'm not a chef. I'm not a professionally trained chef, and but it's just that expression of the faces on the faces that people, they suddenly open up at that moment with so much joy. It creates a connection and a bond.
That it is so important, and it's amazing how many estate dinners and different events around the world have been peace talks have come around because of a dinner, or just having tea with someone as well.
Mm.
Sitting down and enjoying food and beverage with someone else really does open that up. So
Yeah.
The sociology of food over history, I mean, that have you explored that when you're teaching sociology, and how can you talk a little bit about that?
So what I did actually, the yeah, what I taught, what I focused on was more gender studies,
Mm-hmm.
family work balance, the role of women in society. That's where most of my work was focused. And specifically at the time, when I was in South Africa, we were just in the midst of a terrible HIV, epidemic. And when I started teaching, in fact, it was probably at its worst. So that was the pressing issue in our society at the time, and that's where I focused a lot of my work on HIV/AIDS with orphans, and also with women, the way it affected women. So it was very gender focused. But again, with this business, like with my sociology, what I'm enjoying about it is that I'm a woman, I'm a businesswoman,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also leading a new area of food production. So it's very interesting for me, to see how people are reacting to a woman in the workplace, to you know how also with kosher, how this is developing. So it's very interesting. Also, with work-life balance, I remember everything that I was teaching, and putting putting theory into practice is a lot harder. So often there are things that are going through my mind as I'm running around, catering and whatever else. And yeah, we learn as we go along. So it's very interesting. I mean, I think the one thing that I can say is that we are living sociology every day. We might not realize it, but actually we are living it, because we are interacting in groups. We are affecting the way that the world works. And, we can all sit down and analyze what it is that we are contributing to this world, and
Yeah.
helping to. move beyond the problems that exist. And again, this business started because there was a need. It was a community service that I was doing initially. It was helping people who needed food in Dubai, and they couldn't eat. So that's how it started, was food security. And so again, that element ties in nicely with my background.
Definitely. And food security right now is a big issue with the pandemic, but I mean, you met it in a different way at the time when you started. And so when we're looking at food and beverage and how it can impact us, it impacts our culture, it impacts our feelings of safety, whether it's food allergies or whether it's I can't get a piece of bread on my plate. There's so many different things that food is entwined with and mixed in with in our society that we take for granted a lot.
Yeah, we do. We really do. And I think that safety element is important because, as you said, it could be a specific diet, around maybe it's allergies or gluten-free or whatever, but certainly around kosher, what I was seeing, before the normalization was that people were asking me, is it okay if I come in? I'm Jewish, I've got a Jewish surname. Is it safe for me? And I would say, of course, it's safe for you. There's no problem for you to be here. You can be here. There's no issue with you being Jewish. But the thing is, the fact that people could get kosher food meant that they were okay. That they were being looked after. It was okay for them to be here, and that gave them security. It wasn't just food security in the sense that they could eat. It was also emotional security that they could get from it.
That's a really good point. When we're designing menus, we have to think about that aspect of it as well. It's that comfort level and in knowing what you know and knowing what you believe in, and that you have access to that.
Yeah.
So,
And
go ahead.
Sorry, and also, with people who keep a religious diet, when you travel, you're not going to drop that element of religiosity. So you don't want to be uncomfortable, and you don't want to be in a place watching other people eating and eating great food, and you sort of picking on grapes or nuts or something, which of course are which are nice as snacks, but not as a main meal, So that is, people shouldn't be put in a position where they have to compromise their values. And, it wasn't realized or known before that that's the position people were in when they came to the UAE. And that's why I think the Abu Dhabi ruling came out, because when they realized what kosher meant and that there were people already traveling in, it was immediately responded to, okay, we know that normalization of ties is going to happen. We know Israelis and other Jews are going to come in. We know that there's going to be a certain number that are going to need kosher food. We must make it available. Of course, they can't come here and not eat. So, it is very much a thing, again, of identity and allowing people to be who they are in this diverse environment. That is inclusion.
Oh, I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you. Okay, so we've passed our 30-minute mark, which is awesome because I love listening. I could listen to you all day long and talk about this. But to wrap it up, what is your favorite food to eat?
Wow, my favorite food to eat. There's too many. There's too many. I love Middle Eastern flavored foods. I love Mediterranean foods. I mean, I like simple, clean tastes, if I can put it that way. I love to experience the flavors of the how can I say? I love the simple flavors. So you could put a bowl of great olives in front of me, and I'd be extremely happy. You can put an apricot baklava in front of me, I'll devour it. what is my favorite? What is my favorite? My favorite, I would have to say, is at the moment, is a date cake that was taught to me from my Emirati friend, and she puts beautiful Emirati spices in, and it's topped with a tahini frosting and pistachios. And I could eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I love it.
That's nice.
Mm.
Sounds delicious.
Mm.
Okay, and I just one question, and we're going to talk about how everybody can get a hold of you. But who would you want, if living or dead, who would you want to invite into your kitchen, into Elli's Kosher kitchen, to have a dinner, have a meal with?
I'd love to have Yotam Ottolenghi. I love his food.
Uh-huh. All right, I'm not familiar with him. Who is that?
So he's an Israeli chef, actually living in London, and he's written a number of cookbooks, and he has a restaurant in London, a few, I think, and it's modern Middle Eastern food, but his foods are amazing. And actually, at the moment, he's running on Instagram a masterclass cooking show, whatever. And yeah, I would, if I could invite him into my kitchen, it would be him. I'd ask him to cook for me, just like show me your techniques. You know, his stuff's amazing. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so now how does everybody find you?
Okay, so you can reach me on my website. It's Elli's Kosher Kitchen, spelled ELLIS, kosherkitchen.com. On my homepage, you will see the email, which is info@Elli's Kosher Kitchen. That's actually my email. It comes straight to me. And it's got my phone number, my mobile number on the front there. So people can contact me there. They can follow me on Instagram. It's Elli's Kosher Kitchen on Instagram. I'm on Twitter as @Elli Kosher. I'm on Facebook, Elli's Kosher Kitchen, and also on LinkedIn as Elli Kriel.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know it's late where you are, so I appreciate that.
You're most welcome. It's lovely to chat to you.
Yes, and hopefully I can. I've never been there, so hopefully I can come when the sky is open, and we can, and the borders open, and I can come visit you.
Oh, that would be amazing, and you'd be very welcome to have a meal with me. You tell me what your favorite food is, and I'll see if I can make it for you. But that would be amazing.
Thank you, Elli.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Eating at a Meeting live cast. This will be a podcast in a few weeks, so check that out on all of your favorite podcast platforms, Eating at a Meeting. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.